You are now tuned in to the Commissioner's Conversation.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. You are tuned in to the YouTube edition of the Commissioner's Conversation. I'm your host, Commissioner Gordon. Alongside with me today, returning guest, friend of the show from 92.9 The Game, from Fill in the Blank Sports Podcast, where you can find it everywhere, right, Jarvis?
Everywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, your mama tape recorder, like man, you can find the Fill in the Blanks podcast everywhere, man. So we trying to expand like you, man. We trying to be on your level, dog.
Hey man, we can get that together, bro.
No doubt. Look, like it's more than one path, bro. Like, so yeah, we all on that same path, man. We just taking the steps trying to get there, baby.
And we could pull up at the same time like a gang out of these streets.
Look, we about to storm the capital of opportunity, right?
Right.
And we ain't got to worry about getting locked up.
Nope. We just want opportunity.
Indeed.
James Brown says, you ain't got to just open up the door and I'll get it myself. You ain't got to give it to me.
Right, exactly.
So, but yeah, once again, 92.9 The Game, Fill in the Blanks podcast. My good friend, Jarvis Davis, man. What's happening, bro?
Man, not too much, man. Just out here waiting for all of the prognosticating that we've been doing for the past 6 months, seems like. Because, you know, the Falcon season was over with probably like after the first month. like we knew this team was gonna be pretty bad, and we knew that more than likely this team was probably gonna be a top 5 picking team. So, but yeah, man, it's been fun. I've even got into the mock draft too, man. I've been doing the mock drafts online, man.
You bit the bait.
Like yeah, man. I took the bait. I ate it. I even jumped down in it a few times, and I was like, golly, man, I went down this rabbit hole. But I love it, man. I love. You know me, man. I'm a football junkie, man. I love watching film. I love looking at cats and coming up with my own opinion of them and how they play on the field. So but one thing I can say though, the Falcons have a lot of options with that number 4 pick, buddy.
Well, and that's what they've been saying. Like the draft doesn't technically start until the 4th pick. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing and that I wanted to talk to you about because you're doing your due diligence and doing your research on a lot of these guys and what may or may not happen in some of these moves. That, like I said, that's why I wanted to talk to you because for me, man, I'm gonna be honest. I kind of threw up my hands. There's rumors, there's trade rumors, there's players sliding up and down, and at some point in time, it gets to be where you're just listening to some people's opinions of players, and not actual objective information. So at some point, a lot of times, I was like, okay, look, I'll just back away from it. I'll get back. I'll keep my eye on it. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to try to say, oh, this guy said that Mac Jones is such and such and such and such, or this guy said that, so I'm not doing that. And so that's why I come to guys like you, because after a while, man, it's getting to be like a soap opera of what's happening and what's going on out here. So, I mean, and we can start there. Like we could start with, I pretty much talked about Mac Jones. And from what I've been seeing, help me with this, dog.
Okay, I got you. Like my whole thing is like this is the time. This is the time of year where my ears, when it comes to any draft conversations and from the so-called experts, as my boy Mel stuff from Southwest Atlanta used to say, I think you have to really kind of like come to the conclusion that everybody's lying right at this point. And it all started with the San Francisco 49ers when they made that move like seemingly 7 months before the draft started. Like they made that move, and I think all of the rumors start flying. That's when you start seeing, oh yeah, the Falcons are really interested in Trey Lance. Are they? Really? Really? Like Oh, you mean to tell me they're interested enough to take phone calls, and now they're actually taking phone calls to trade down. Oh, what a coincidence. Like, because when I think about Chris Sims, who is everybody knows is really tight with Kyle Shanahan, right?
Right.
When he comes out and says Mac Jones is the guy, he's the pick,
and pretty much locked it.
Yeah, like he locked it in. That's a pick. They moved up. They traded all those picks. They gave up all that draft capital to move up for Mac Jones.
Right.
Think about that. Think about that. A 1-year starter at Alabama. Now, granted, he had the best season statistically as that an Alabama quarterback has ever had. I get that. I understand that. But we're talking about Mac Jones. A 1 year, he's still a 1 year starter, regardless of how you want to twist it and turn it and look at it. And you mean to tell me you rate him higher than Justin Fields?
And on top of that, he's throwing to guys who are head and shoulders, talent-wise, above the guys that are guarding them, that are defending them.
They're better than everybody, go. They're better than everybody. Like, literally, Jalen Waddell, who was probably, everybody knew he was going to have an amazing season this year. He gets hurt. In comes Devontae Smith. He comes in and wins the freaking Heisman.
Right.
He wins the Heisman Trophy. Like, so if you have a guy who is more than likely was going to be a first-round pick, everybody said that. He's going to be a first-round pick. And then his replacement, the guy that comes in and takes his place, comes in and wins the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to question that quarterback. Yeah, I'm going to say, you know what? If he's throwing the guys that are 6 and 7 yards open, what does that really tell me about what he's going to do in the NFL? Because we all know those windows get butthole tight in the NFL.
Yeah, that ain't happening. You're not playing catch, because that's essentially what he was doing out here at Alabama, is just playing catch with some of these guys. You blow by your man, and I just drop it off to you. And it doesn't matter the accuracy, because if I throw it too far, you can go get it. And if I underthrow you, you have so much separation that you can adjust.
I'll just wait for it. You catch a punt. You can catch a punt and still score a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, I right now in this junction, man, like I turn off I listen to it, but I take it with a grain of salt, man. Like I really don't take it ingested, man, because like I said, for me, man, I look at it myself. I look at it like, okay, sitting here looking at quarterbacks, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm a quarterback expert, but I do believe what I see. I do believe that Justin Fields was a Heisman candidate last year, and the only real criticism that I hear about Justin Fields is when he played against Northwestern and he had bad games. He had these 2 bad games. Yeah. What about the other damn games? What about that game against Clemson where he knocked off a juggernaut with damn near broken ribs? You know, like, do you remember that game?
Yeah, and the thing about the Northwestern game, I think it was Indiana. I remember watching the Indiana game, and
that was Indiana game.
You could tell that the countdown was on, because I think Ohio State only played like 6 games, so you could tell the countdown was on, and he was pressing. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to he was trying to not only win, he was trying to win convincingly, and he forced it. So okay, that may be an issue when he forces a lot of stuff instead of letting the game come to him. Then it may be a few issues. But I think I read somewhere like this dude had the highest Wonderlic score ever,
and you didn't even hear about it.
Right.
Like that's breaking news right here on the Commissioner Podcast. A black man had a high Wonderlic score. Only time you hear about it when he has a really low one. So like, come on, man. Like let's really work out, because I remember when Vic Young's Wonderlic score came out. Everybody lost their stuff when he talked about it. But here you have a guy who's come from a 2-parent household. They're all about education. Always been, he's been the number 1 quarterback, recruit, a highly touted guy. He goes to UGA, things don't work out there for a whole lot of reasons that we probably don't have time to get into.
Right.
He transfers to Ohio State with all the hoopla, and he lives up to the billing. He lives up to the hype. He lives up to the hype. He was a Heisman candidate his first year as a starter. In second year, he's in the national championship against Alabama. And it's just like, what else do you need to see? Like, what am I missing? Like, how is it that Zach Wilson is all of a sudden better than him, or is going to go before him with the number 2 overall pick to the New York Jets? That's why I say, man, I think there are going to be some things that happen differently than what we've been settled in on in these past couple of weeks, because it just some things just don't make sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Justin Fields go to the New York Jets. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Right. And that's what I was saying. I had to stop and back away from it because some of this stuff is lies, especially when you hear it. Like, okay, with the Mac Jones situation, like you just said, they traded all those picks. They jumped in front of all of these teams to get a player who was probably projected to be around 15. When you look at it.
A mid-first round pick. And he's worked his way up to that. Like,
right.
He wasn't on a lot of guys' radar as far as, oh yeah, he's going to be a top 10 pick. Nah, he worked his way up to that. He had a good Senior Bowl. The head coach down at Carolina, raved about him and talked about his work ethic. I actually saw him working with guys after practice and taking snaps with different players that he had literally just met. So, you see the work ethic, you see why teams love him, but this guy wasn't a guaranteed first round pick. And now, we played no games, and he's all of a sudden he's become a better player than Justin Fields, who was in conversations with being that 1A to Trevor Lawrence. So how did he drop? All of a sudden he dropped down. Like, it's just weird to me, man. It's just weird to me this time of year when we coming up on the draft like this. It's just weird the stuff that comes out.
Yeah, like I said, that's why I had to back away from it all a little bit. But then I'll move it down a notch. Well, let's take it up because you just touched on that. If the New York Jets, and I talked to JR from JR Sports Brief, and he was saying in terms of fit, and he didn't want to go into the racial thing, and he did kind of go into the racial thing in terms of the fans accepting Zach Wilson and more than they would Justin Fields. Like, they would give him that extra slack, the growing pains that you would probably need as a developing young player. And he said they would be more, they would be more willing to accept this young player as opposed to that young player. And I can agree to that. I can see that. I think we can all say, oh, okay, well, that's an honest assessment. But I'm like you. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they came in and it was Trevor Lawrence 1, Justin Fields 2. So from there, we go down to 3. I mean, now if it begs the question, if San Francisco really has their eye on Mac Jones, and let's say it's like I said, it's Trevor and Justin 1 and 2. Do they ignore Zach and just stay with Mac Jones, or do they say, "Hey, man, we've been dead set on Mac Jones and we're gonna go with it," or is their plan foiled? You know what I'm saying? Because this could be a smoke screen for them to tell the Jets to say, "Okay, go ahead, take Zach," and then when Justin falls to them, like, "Gotcha, we want Justin, put it up there."
Yeah, and that's a game that general managers and head coaches play. As we get closer and closer to this thing, you're going to start to see even more rumors, or even more rumors going to start leaking out. And for example, you talk about with Arthur Blank, like Peter King put out a piece talking about Arthur Blank wanting to being fascinated with what's going this quarterback class. Okay, all right, that's interesting. So the owner of the Atlanta Falcons is fascinated. Like that's an interesting word to use, right? Like because if I hear that from another team, if I'm another team, if I'm in that front office, I'm like, okay, who is he fascinated with?
Right.
Like, is he fascinated with based off of how most of the mocks have been going, like you said. But if the scenario you just laid out with Lawrence, Fields, and let's just say Mac Jones, do the Falcons take Zach Wilson?
Right.
You know, that wouldn't go over well in this city. I'll tell you that right now. The city of Atlanta is not trying to hear Zach Wilson, a name being called and wearing black and red. I'm sorry. Not that number one. They want somebody else wearing number one.
One theory that I don't buy into that has been put up on a lot of these stations and networks is the fact that this whole draft class of quarterbacks, well, the top 4 that we discussed, that these are all can't miss guys. I don't believe that. I believe that there can be a guy or two that if you put them in a situation where either they're in over their head, that it can be a bust type situation. So I mean
the numbers bear out that for the first round anyway. Like 50% of these guys, they're gonna suck in the NFL. Like that's just how it works, man. It's just that the quarterback position is the value on it has gone up so much. I mean, don't get me wrong, quarterback position has always been valued, but it has gone up so much. And I think it's the fault of guys like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, because these guys can do so much. They not only can sit back there and let it rip in the pocket and hit the open receiver and read and all that stuff. Now these guys can do all of that on top of, when the play breaks down, what you gonna do? Because most of the time when you talk about having those pure pocket quarterbacks like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady, if stuff breaks down, shoot, they're gonna take that L and move on to the next play.
Right.
But when you got these guys coming in doing what they're doing in the league and ripping it up and having this early success, and it always come back to the money too, Gordo. Like these guys on these rookie contracts, man, like they know exactly how much these cats gonna make for 5 years, at least 5 years. So that means you can move around some of that other money into other guys and put it in other places and get you a Super Bowl contender before you have to pay the piper, because we all know where these contracts going for these quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes already about to be at $50 million. So
it's through the roof.
It's the urgency has gone up to get. I guess what I'm saying is the urgency to get a quarterback that can win you games is even heightened now, because you only have a certain window before, hey, you're gonna have to just pay the piper.
Now, with that being said, do you agree that there's going to be a lot of pressure put on all of these guys? Like, even if you go deeper into the first round, possibly in the second round, where you have like your what's my guy's name? Like Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask,
and
Jamie Newman, possibly.
When you get down to these guys, when you get down to these guys that are down at there and maybe getting drafted by maybe Chicago, even though they got Andy Dalton, maybe New England is gonna, even though they still have their thing going with Cam, it's gonna be a lot of pressure put on these guys. So with that, yeah, you know what this guy's gonna do, but do you think a lot of these teams are putting too much on these young players to come in and play right away, and not only play, because it's one thing to come in and play, but you're gonna take a lot of lumps your first year?
Yeah, the pressure's there. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to continue to go up. Like I said, for those reasons I just mentioned, lay it out. The money, man, the salary cap implications that go with paying a quarterback once it's time for him to be paid. It's getting to the point where it's like, wow, like if I'm a defensive end, primetime defensive end coming in the league, I was like, man, why are they getting paid all that money? I'm just as valuable as they are.
Right.
Because look, I can stop them. If I can get you 15, 13 or 14 sacks, who to say I'm not worth 40 to 50 million dollars. So, but the pressure, but back to your question though, the pressure is always going to be there because I even use Atlanta for example, because people like to say or discredit them drafting the quarterback in the first round by saying people are going to be clamoring for him to play. What does that mean? Like, who cares? Of course,
that's not a reason.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's not a reason not to draft him. Or Matt Ryan might feel a certain type of way. Matt Ryan know the game. Matt Ryan's a professional. If they draft a quarterback, a young quarterback coming here, if anything, it's gonna motivate him even more to play better.
He better,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so
better get on his Aaron Rodgers.
Competition always comes out of the best guys.
Right.
Like, you're gonna find out a lot more about Matt because Matt he's cookie cutter. Like he's a cookie cutter guy. Like he's says all the right things. You're never gonna catch him off guard. He's never gonna say anything to make people feel a certain way, and he's always gonna do what he's supposed to do. He's just that type of guy. But if you put him in a situation where you essentially drafting his replacement, that'd be interesting because we saw this last year, right? With Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
They traded up to draft Jordan Love. And this dude went out and win a freaking MVP. So like that's something that can also happen too. People don't want to mention that part of it. They just want to discredit, you don't draft a quarterback. That means you're not trying to win. Yes, you are. You're trying to win. You're always trying to win. You draft the best player available. If the best player is a quarterback on your board, and that just so happened to be Justin Fields or whoever, do it, man. Do it, because if I'm a general manager, I'm Terry Fondo, I'm trying to figure out how I can get some job security. You know how you get some job security in the NFL?
Win.
You hit on that doggone quarterback. Thomas Mitchell was around this motherfucker for 12 years, bro. he saw two different coaches, dog. Yep. And when he should have been gone. He should have been gone when doggone Mike Smith was doggone got fired.
He had a lot of strikes
on that quarterback, bro. That's job security, dog. I'm trying to find job security.
He struck out on a lot of players. But with that, though, with that being said, here in Atlanta, okay, if I don't know how it would play out, but I see on a lot of these guys' boards, Kyle Pitts is the number one player, is the best player in the draft overall. If we're there at number 4, what does it say to you if the Falcons take Kyle Pitts?
It says to me that you're going to continue doing what the previous regime did.
Okay.
And the previous regime wasn't able to really draft guys up front. They consistently, like you mentioned, Thomas Mitchell consistently specifically missed on pass rushers, guys that can touch the quarterback. He consistently missed on that guys. Now, I give him credit for Vic Beasley because he was an all-pro, led the league in sacks and forced fumbles, but for whatever reason, not being motivated or not having the right guy coaching him on a day-to-day basis, that might be the reason why Vic never quite panned out, but he did help this. He was a catalyst for this team on that defense when on a Super Bowl run. But like I said, as far as the Kyle Pitts goes, it'll be continuing with the whole, that's cute. They got so many weapons. What has those weapons done for you the past 3 years?
Right.
Like, you 3 straight losing seasons. That's what it's gotten you. Like, you need guys who can touch the quarterback and protect the quarterback. So if you don't go with the quarterback and you're sitting there with number 4 overall pick, go ahead and get the offensive lineman that's going to protect Matt, if that's what you still want to go with. If you know that, hey, Matt's going to be around here for the next 2 years at least, let me at least try to protect the guy. Let me at least try to get an elite tackle. Let me get the best tackle in this draft to protect him. So Kyle Pitt is a sexy pick. I'm cool. I understand. I get it. He probably going to be a really good tight end in the NFL, but it doesn't do anything for me because, like you said, there's not really an edge rusher that's worth that number 4 overall pick, but there's damn sure offensive tackle that you can draft and
Oh
put
yeah.
in a Sewell that'll be
Yeah.
sitting right there ready for you, ready to go to come in and protect his quarterback. So yeah, if they go with Kyle Pitts, man, they'll be continuing to do the same crap that got them to those 3 straight losing seasons.
Now speaking of Sewell, because if you look at most mock drafts, they usually have the Falcons either A, trading the pick, or B, taking one of the quarterbacks, and then him falling towards Cincinnati with the next pick. But wouldn't it be the Cincinnati way to grab one of these receivers and say, we're not going to protect our QB. We're gonna go out here and get one of these receivers.
By the way, Gordo, let's mention this, who had a season-ending injury because he was getting mollywopped last year. So yes, that would be so Cincinnati to draft Jamar Chase. Now, granted, Jamar Chase is probably going to be a really good receiver because he's a specimen, he's a baller. But for them not to protect their investment, protect your investment, man. I don't understand what's so hard about that. Yeah, it's not a sexy pick. Yeah, people might be like, oh, they drafted Penei Sewell. Okay. But guess what? That dude mess around and become an all-pro for you the next couple of years. Prime example, Quentin Nelson for the Indianapolis Colts is a road grader. He's a whole man. Like, he was a boring pick. But guess what? He's going to be an all-pro for you. And, you know, he's going to be a guy that's opening up that run game for whoever you have at quarterback. You know, like, so, you know, and I think that that's why you can't really listen to the fan base, because they're going to always fall in love with the sexy picks, like the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the pass catching tight ends and all that stuff. Yeah, man, that's cool. But Cincinnati will be making a big mistake if Penei Sewell is still there and they choose a wide receiver.
And I think that's where a lot of GMs get into trouble, because like you said, they try to win. It's like a political race, and they try to please the crowd and say what they want people to hear, what the people want to hear. And so getting that wide receiver or that game-breaking running back or linebacker or whatever, they try to get those sexy positions covered. And assuming that I can double back second, third, fourth round and then I can try to piece together a line. But by the time you get that deep in the draft, those guys are there for a reason.
Until it falls out. Yeah, man. Yes. Yes. Like, but that's not to say that you can't find talent in the third and fourth rounds.
Right.
But it's a difference between drafting the best tackle in the entire country coming out versus the 6th or 7th guy that you have a really good feeling about. You see how I said that? Like, the best tackle in the country versus, man, you know what? I really like this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like
got a lot of
everybody likes that guy. Draft him.
Right.
Like, you have an opportunity to draft a guy that everybody wants, everybody covets. Everybody says this is the best tackle in the draft. Go draft that dude when you have a chance.
As opposed to, like I said, this guy who has a lot of potential, a guy who
there you go,
who really hasn't done anything, but you saw him make a couple plays and you said to yourself, I can work with that. I can try to mold him and create.
Right. Or like, doesn't that seem like a familiar theme here in Atlanta with the Falcons?
Oh yeah.
Takk McKinley, Vic Beasley, Rasheed Hageman, Stanley Mapunga, you know, Lawrence Sidbury, you know, it's just all these guys, you know. So it is, when you had the opportunity, draft the best guy. If that's the best guy, everybody thinks the best guy, like, you can't go wrong with it. Because let's just say Penei Sewell turns out to be a bust. Who gonna get fired for drafting the guy that everybody thought was the best tackle in the draft?
Right.
Who gonna get fired for that?
Right. As opposed to,
but you can get fired for passing on him and him becoming an all-pro
for 15 years.
Hurt again.
Yeah.
Right. For 15 years. Yeah, for 15 years.
A Hall of Famer.
Right. Becomes a Hall of Famer, and you up here trying to you up here drafting a guy out of Wisconsin Whitewater that you feeling really good about.
Right.
Man.
He showed a
Get the
lot of
best
heart.
guy if you had to opt. Yeah.
Like they we always talk about with the code words. He showed a lot of heart. He's a gritty
He's
guy.
a gritty guy. he has a non-stop motor.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Show me the white guy that you're talking about.
Yeah. this okay average white dude. Show him
right. Like, come on, man. Like, let's keep it real, man. Like, let's be honest. Like, that's why I say is when it comes to this whole evaluating talent and stuff like that. That's why I think that as I continue to grow and continue to learn different things about approach and how to talk about these guys coming out. That's one thing I've always said, man. I want to remain objective as possible. I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even look at stats before I look at these guys. If somebody tells me about a player, I'm like, hey man, you should check out this dude. Or I'm like, oh, okay, let me check out this guy. I like how he played in this game. Let me see what he's talking about on another game. I don't really look at stats. I don't look at measurables. I don't look at none of that. I want to see the tape first because I don't want to have a preconceived notion about these guys. And I think that's what's happening when people are giving their opinions about these prospects, especially these quarterbacks, man. It just, because it's almost like a cookie cutter way in how they talk about these guys. Some guys that on ESPN and all that stuff, like they say this, if you pull a tape of them talking about a guy coming out of a small school 3 years ago, they saying the same thing about Trey Lance or they said the same thing about Zach Wilson. I'm just like, man, come on, man. Y'all got to give me a little bit more than that because these guys can't be the same guy. Like, are you really looking at the film or really like give me something that is going to say, you know what, this guy might sound or look or play like this said player, but he has something else. He has something to him that like, made me think like, okay, that's why Zach Wilson is better than Justin Fields. Because to be honest with you, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything from him to say that, you know what, maybe Zach Wilson is better than Justin Fields.
Well, I always, and you made a great point with the fact that they say certain things and certain comments about guys in the past that they say about guys now. And I always equate that to, we're in this business. And so what we wound up doing is we watch games, we watch film, we do all these things, and we have to fact check ourselves before you go out and say anything reckless. But what I wound up realizing is a lot of these guys don't watch games. So they rely on what other people say and what other people tell them. And then when other people are telling them this random stuff, they say, oh, that sounds like what such and such told me about the last dude. I'm gonna say he reminds me of him. And then you recycle.
There you go.
And the more I watch a lot of this stuff, the more I realize, and you hear a guy talk, and they'll say something, and you'll say to yourself like, you didn't watch a damn game, did you? Because you can tell.
Right. Exactly. And like prime example, Dan Orlovsky for ESPN. Now I love Dan. Like I actually was able to interact with him a little bit before he even went to ESPN, and used to come on the station a couple of times, and we had some conversation with him, talk a little shop about football. But this whole thing about somebody telling him that Justin Fields is a one-read guy, like he like to lock in on his wide receiver, and I'm just like, dude, why are you regurgitating what somebody else said?
Yeah,
then you get upset, or you not get upset, you get frustrated with people who are upset at you because of you putting something out there that's what they've always said about black quarterbacks.
Right.
And these scouts, I'm not believing not nail scout. I don't care how close or tight we are. At this point, I'm not believing the scout because they're putting certain things out there because they want it to be out there. And they're playing, and basically Dan Orlovsky got played like a puppet, man. And that's why. And my whole thing is, I understand. I would understand if he's just a host or he came up as a broadcaster and didn't really have any playing experience. Dude, you played in the league for
Right.
at least 6 to 7 years, at least. Dan Orlovsky been, he played in the league for quite some time. So why are you listening to what somebody else has to say about somebody's evaluation on a quarterback? Or you played a position. I want to hear what do you have to say? And you mess around, regurgitate what somebody told you, people you talk to, whatever, you know how they do it nowadays.
Yep.
And
Their
you
sources.
got lambasted. They crucified you behind because you put that stuff out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys get too wrapped up in sources. You know, it's lazy.
Yeah.
It's lazy work. Like we've been behind the scenes and all of this stuff, so we're used to doing the work. And most of these guys have been behind the scenes. They started out as producers and editors and engineers and all of this stuff, and they know what it takes to do the work. But once you get to a certain platform, it's like, oh, I have these people at my disposal, or I can call this guy who works with quarterbacks and I can just ask him what he thinks, and I don't really have to watch the tape. It's lazy, and they fall into that. But I will ask you this, because one thing that intrigued me a little bit, Justin Fields and Trey Lance both had, and maybe some other players, but I know those two both had second pro days. And I know they both looked pretty decent in the first pro day. Like, I heard nothing negative about either one of them in their first pro day. But maybe you can shine some light on it. What is the purpose of a second pro day?
You know what? Because I know Kyle Shanahan, I can't remember which one he ran.
It was the second.
I know he did.
The second one for Trey Lance.
Yes, so he did run the workout for the second one for Trey Lance. So if I'm Trey Lance, yeah, I'm willing to do that, because I honestly feel like I can possibly change his mind, because what we've been hearing, everybody been saying is going to be Mac Jones. And if I'm Trey Lance's agent, yeah, I'm setting it up. Let's go. Let's run it. I want to prove to you that I'm your guy. You should draft me. But this is just me and kind of covering Kyle Shanahan when he was the offensive coordinator here for the Falcons, and just kind of having a little bit more insight than most people on the outside looking in. I think he did that second workout specifically for Trey Lance to throw people off.
Okay.
To continue the smoke screen. Because at the end of the day, now, granted, I'm sure that the people in the 49ers organization were there and they were seriously scouting. I'm not saying it was just all a front. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is Kyle Shanahan had no problem running that thing, saying, because, he even heard he talks about them running specific Kyle Shanahan plays. And
right.
He was actually, running specific things that Kyle Shanahan's going to run in his offense. And he wants to see that. I think it was all a smoke screen, because I believe that Kyle Shanahan wants everyone to think that his best buddy broke news. And it's just hard for me to believe that, man, because Kyle Shanahan's always had those kind of cookie cutter type quarterbacks. And I believe in his system, if he got a guy like Justin Fields, you don't think Justin Fields in a play action controlled type offense, a play action centric offense, you don't think he can flourish in that type of offense and having that run pass option? Right. I think his offense would be even more dangerous, because I do believe Kyle Shanahan is one of the best play callers in the NFL, because I've seen it for myself, like live and in person. Like, right. I saw it on the field. I'm like, whoa, this dude is like playing chess. When these cats on defense playing checkers, like, for real. Like, Matt Ryan was a MVP of the entire league when he was here. So you got to get a man his props. Exactly. But this whole second workout stuff, man, and there's even a safety for I think last name is Cox. I can't think of his first name, for LSU, who's he has a workout on the 26th. next week. That's next week, 3 days before the draft. And I'm just
Right.
like, what is going on, man? This is unheard of, man. So I do believe that some guys really want to get a good last look at these players, but at the top, the top dog, Kyle Shanahan, the guy who's gonna make the decisions, I think it was really a ploy to kind of like throw people off and maybe even take some phone calls because I believe everything is on the table in this draft, man. Outside of the first two picks. Outside of the first two picks, I think everything is on the table. And Kyle Shanahan gonna try to work some magic to maybe even probably possibly get some of those picks back that he gave up to move up.
Well, we were talking about some of these other quarterbacks. Do you believe that the New Orleans Saints? We'll talk about them. That's the rival here, but I believe personally that at some point in time, whether it's the second round, third round, we were talking about the Kyle Trask, we were talking about Kellen Mond, maybe even Ian Book, somebody, whoever. Do the Saints go ahead and pick up a late round QB, or do you think they're just gonna go ahead and they're gonna stick with Winston, and they're gonna stick with your guy? Damn, I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah. I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name. I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name. Yeah, it'll come to me in a second. But to answer your question, I think they stick with Jameis because it's. I think Jameis. Sean Payton's the type of guy that now they'll probably draft a guy in the late rounds. I think they'll draft a guy in the late rounds, but I don't think they'll draft a guy in the upper half of the draft or with their first round, in their first round pick or something like that. I don't think they would do that, but I definitely think Sean Payton is the type of guy that's going to always have guys ready to go, because if you don't have a guy like Drew Brees, which he doesn't,
right,
you kind of like, I need to find somebody who's going to be willing to do what I need them to do in my system, because that's what got me to a Super Bowl. And if you don't do what I say in my system, I'm going to move on, because I'm no longer tied to a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm no longer tied to that guy. So right now, it looks like I would not be surprised if they were to draft a guy in the mid to late rounds and have him and groom him and have him be ready to go, and all the while making sure Jameis is ready to go to compete for it to be the starter of the team.
Yeah, because we were trying to think of Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, there we go. Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. Like, they put this, I don't want to call it Tebow quality on Taysom Hill. That's about the closest thing I can think of. They put this Tebow type thing, like he can play tight end, he can play quarterback. He's a Swiss Army knife.
Wide receiver, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to his credit, he does those things. But
he's a weapon.
Right. But I think you can only use that so many times a game. Like consistently, he wouldn't be that dude 16, 17 games now. You can't go out here and play that, because once we get the film on how you're going to use him, and now it's going to be more exposed because you have Jameis Winston. You don't have Drew Brees to say, okay, we're going to leave it totally in Drew Brees' hands. And now when we're going to try out Taysom Hill with a wrinkle, or when we do try out Hill, you have to keep an eye on him. It's like, hey, like a magic trick, like, hey, watch the hand over here, and you're doing something right here.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that for 17 games during the regular season and then think that's going to be successful.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, because there are some smart defensive coordinators out there, and like you said, once that film get out there, man, it's hard to go back. I even think about to that first half when Taysom Hill was a starter at quarterback, and he looked awful. He was terrible. It was literally throwing ground balls to wide receivers. I'm like, how's this dude started, and why aren't the Falcons up 21-0 right now? Like that was literally the first thought that came to my mind watching the first half of that game. And it's just that's the frustrating part, when you think about you see a guy like Taysom Hill, he gets the money, and you got Jameis Winston. Now, granted, Jameis has his issues. We know that.
Right.
He turns the ball over. He's just like to give the ball to the other team. That's there. But you see the talent is there. And at some point, a coach has to figure that out, I would think, and to get inside his head and say, jump on his brain and start thumping and say, stop, don't make that throw, don't make that throw, don't make that throw. Make the throw, make this throw, make this throw, make this throw. Because if you have a guy like a Jared Goff in Sean McVay's system who can be successful and go to a Super Bowl, yeah, I believe Jameis Winston can do the same. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think Sean Payton is the guy that can possibly do it for him. So hopefully, from a personal standpoint for Jameis, he can get that opportunity to be the starter. But when you have a guy like Taysom Hill, man, that you can't have sustained success in the NFL with him as your starting quarterback. Now, you can throw some wrinkles in there, like you said, like, hey, look at my left hand, but I'm actually doing something with my right hand. I'm stealing your money out of your back pocket with my right hand, but look at my left hand because I got a whole bunch going on over here. Yeah, you can pull that off. You can make that work. And they did when Drew Brees was a starting quarterback, but you can't do that for 17 games. It's weird saying 17 games now.
Right.
That's kind of, I got to kind of get used to that, but I'm glad you mentioned that. But it's for 17 games and you're trying your best to figure out how to be successful with this dude as your starter. There ain't no way you're going to win games. If you're a Falcons fan, like, you pray that Taysom Hill is a starting quarterback for the Saints.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
You hope and believe. Yeah. Stand in agreements.
My exact words as a fan, put him out there. But like to your sentiments toward about Jameis, I think part of that, once again, it was Bruce Arians' system where you throw the ball a million times down the field. And if you throw it a bunch of times down the field, it's going to come up. At some point in time, you're going to come up crap. You know what I'm saying? And with a guy with Jameis's confidence to believe that he could get it anywhere and squeeze it anywhere, it didn't matter how many defenders were back there or how far down the field they were. He thought that he could make it. And that they kind of jailed together, but it turned out to equal a lot of turnovers and a lot of losses. But at the same time with that, I think Sean Payton, like you said, is a smart enough coach to where he's going to eliminate some of those downfield throws. You have Michael Thomas over here, and the running joke, especially with fans all around the NFC South, is like all he catches is slants and outs. You know what I'm saying? So you
like he don't even know how to run another route. What's the go route to Michael Thomas? Like, what's the go route? What's that? What's a post? What do you mean? I'm running slants, bro. That's it. That's how I eat. That's how I get my big boy contract. I'm gonna keep running them too.
If you let Jameis navigate those and put those there, then it's going to cut down a lot of those interceptions. It's going to cut down a lot of those turnovers, and it's going to build his confidence. It's going to eventually make him look like a Pro Bowl quarterback. Whether he'll be a Pro Bowl quarterback, I don't know, but he'll look better as a QB. And they're going, like I said, if they don't draft one of these quarterbacks in the middle of one of these middle round QBs, they're going to have a decision on their hands because he signed another 1-year deal, right?
Yeah. So he signed back with the team, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because, like I said, on one hand, you have a guy who's more than capable of doing the job, and he's, but he has his turnover. He has issues turning the football over. He's always had that ever since he's been in the NFL.
Right.
But you see the talent. But on the other hand, you have this guy who's kind of who's not really great at anything. I'm not gonna sit up here and say he's a great pass catcher. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and say he's a great route runner. I'm not saying gonna sit up here and say he's a great runner of the football. He's good. He's good at running routes. He's good at running the football, but he's terrible at throwing the football. I don't care what anybody says. And one of the things as a quarterback in the NFL, you have to be able to throw the football. And like you said, Tim Tebow is a great comparison. It was the same way. He was pretty good at running the football. He was pretty good at, finding ways to make plays when things broke down.
But he also skipped passes.
Horrible.
Yep.
Right. He skipped them passes too. He had to throw them sinkers out there. You throwing them sinkers out there playing baseball with an oblong shaped ball. Nah, man. Not at all. Not at all, man. So hopefully for Saints fans' sake, like, I don't care about Saints fans. Let me get that situated. But if you want to watch some palatable football this year, you will hope that Sean Payton names Jameis Winston as a starter of that football team.
Yeah, you don't want the circus to be in town with Taysom Hill. You don't want the trick plays and all of the what was the on varsity what they call it, the oop-de-oops and all that little stuff they used to call it. You don't want the circus to be in town where he's running trickery. So, but keeping it around the NFC South, man, what in the hell does Tampa Bay need in this draft? Looks like the old Christmas thing. What do you get the guy who has everything? Like, what do they need? Like,
right.
Like,
exactly.
Whatever they got is a bonus.
What do you get that spoiled child? What do you get that only child whose mom is Serena Williams and dad is LeBron James? Like, right. What do you get that child? Because they have any and everything that they will ever want. So, Tampa Bay is bringing back 22 starters. All 22 are coming back. They have a really good, solid offensive line, and they have the GOAT sitting back there, ready and itching, like he's trying to win his first Super Bowl. He's trying to get that. He's trying to get that other one, man, and it's just. Yeah. And you have Mike Evans, and you bring back the wide receiver out of Penn State, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, he's back on a franchise tag. So you go on the other side of the football. Shaq Barrett, Donkey Kong Sue's back.
JPP came back.
Levante David, huh?
JPP come back?
I believe JPP is back, and bring back Levante David too. So you figure out how to pay all these cats. But one thing I will say though, and it's just how, and it's never been something that's been really specific, because we all know what it takes to win a Super Bowl. Everything has to go right. Right. It's so hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls, man. That's why haven't seen that many teams do it. But everything, I believe, if everything works out like it did from a health standpoint and all of that stuff, you got Todd Bowles, a defense coordinator who I respect to the highest level, probably one of my favorite defense coordinators ever. If everything works out and everybody remains healthy, who to say they ain't gonna win another Super Bowl? So, but just from a draft standpoint, you just load up, man. I think you load up. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a look at a defensive lineman, because Donkey Kong Sue can't play forever. JPP is not as a spring chicken as well. So if I'm them, I'm looking at defensive line, defensive end, edge guy, a guy that can really line up on a tackle and whoop him. That's where I would go if I'm Tampa Bay. Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of guys at the end of that first round that have some potential, man, that can come in and possibly make an impact.
And that's the thing, like, about Tampa Bay, the big thing is going to be attitude, in my opinion, because you won a championship, and a lot of guys, like a Mike Evans, I think he's going to be key, because I believe he took a step back for the team to take a step forward and win the Super Bowl. Now, the question is going to be, how often are you willing to do that? Are you willing to continue to have your numbers your personal numbers suffer so that you can continue to win Super Bowls? Or at some point in time, are you going to raise your hand and say, man, I need to get these amount of catches. I need to get these amount of yards. I need you to target me more in the end zone. I need this, and possibly disrupt the team. Or are you going to sacrifice and say, you know what, it doesn't matter. We're winning Super Bowls, or we're contending. We're right there in the mix every season, and I'll just play my position and do the Patriots mantra, just do my job.
Yeah, and that's a hard one, right? Because when you think about it, though, that's what teams all about.
Yeah,
you have to make sacrifices. That's because I can make a case for Chris Godwin having those same issues. Because when Antonio Brown was in the game, Tom Brady was going to.
Yeah, he was going to. At times, he was.
There's no doubt about where he wanted to go with the football. He made it a point to go to Antonio Brown. Now, whether or not those plays were called specifically for him, we don't know that because, like I said, we're not in those rooms. We don't know their playbook. But when looking at the game, Tom made it a great point to get 81 won the football, and I believe that Chris Godwin is a talent because he's a guy that's gave the Falcons all they can handle on Sundays when he's gone out because he one game he had caught 200 quick 200 yards like it was nothing. You looked up and he's one of those guys where he's not going to wow you every play with every catch, and you're not going to be at bated breath sitting there like, whoa, what is he going to do next? But he is a guy where you're looking at box score at the end of the game, you're like, damn, he had a buck. Yeah, he had 7 for a buck 25 and 2 tubs. Oh, I didn't know that. When that happened? But he is that guy. So, and I thought that offense looked better when Antonio Brown was out of the game and he was finding Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So, but yeah, man, that's the thing that you have to make sacrifices for. That's why you see Super Bowl teams break up, because guys feel like they're not really getting what they're just due. Because once you get that first ring, it's just like, all right, I got my ring.
Now I got
to try to eat. I need to get these yards. But the thing about Mike Evans though, he's already gotten paid.
He's already gotten paid.
So it's like, what are you really clamoring for? Because everybody wants to say, yeah, I want to win a Super Bowl ring, but do you know what it takes to win a Super Bowl though? Because there's like that's the question you get, and if guys in the NFL have to answer. And I think a lot of people think that most of the time they're gonna answer Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, man, it's a lot of cats in there that's trying to get that bread.
Right. And that's what I was getting ready to say. It's all a matter of opinion to the player, because what do you value more? And especially if you have a ring, now you want to wear the gold jacket. And just being on the team with the ring doesn't get you the gold jacket. You start to look at those numbers and how you compare and where you rank on these lists in terms of yards and catches and touchdowns and whatever. You start to see where you rank. And now it's vanity at that point. And you want to be known as one of the greats. And we can name a bunch of guys that played on maybe the team with the Ravens and Ray Lewis. You can name like a Saragusa or somebody like that, but that doesn't make him a Hall of Famer. That doesn't make him a great. Now, as a player, when you get that ring, then the next thing is you want to be known as a great player. You want to be known as a Hall of Fame player. You want to be known as the best. And I can't be known as the best if I'm taking a back seat to a guy who you took in as like Mr. Drummond with on different strokes, and you want him to eat. You know,
right? You want him to get that little bonus in his contract.
Yeah, like, you want him to eat.
A lot of people. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Clear to me, like it was clear to me, just like you said, it was clear that when Antonio was in the game, I won't say he forced it, but he made it a conscious effort to get him.
He was going to be targeted. Like he was going to be targeted.
Right.
Like you knew the ball was coming his way at some point.
And when we got to the red zone, he was going to target Gronk. Like that was just going to happen.
Those are going to his boys.
And like you said, it's going to his boys, but you can't even say it's a comfort with AB because they had a couple games together at New England, but it wasn't like they played some seasons. It wasn't. Gronk is something different. Gronk is like, that's like your little, your security
I
blanket.
can't argue with Gronk. Yeah, I can't
Right.
argue with Gronk. Like Gronk
But
is going to the
AB
Hall of Fame. Like, yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. AB is just a guy you took under your wing and you like having around for whatever reason. I wish I knew the ins and out of that relationship. I wish I could be a fly on the wall at some point in time when they were riding to the games together. And
imagine what that conversation would be like.
What the hell are they talking about?
Like, what commonalities do you all have? Yeah. I would love to hear what they have to say. Please let me be in that room.
I've seen some of the stuff AB does on, like, even on social media. He was doing at that time period, he was doing some really wild stuff. And that I can't imagine Tom Brady wanting to be the theoretical Tom Brady that they tried out in front of us. I can't imagine that he would want to be associated with some of the things that Antonio Brown was doing. But we'll skip from Tom Brady and we'll talk about his former team, keeping it on the same theme. We've been talking about quarterbacks. I mean, Bill Belichick got to draft him a quarterback too, right?
That's probably one of the more intriguing storylines for me because Bill Belichick did something in this offseason that I've never seen, you've never seen, Roger Goodell never seen. Nobody's ever seen the Patriots just make it rain in free agency.
Right.
Everybody signed with the Patriots. Like, I thought I was going to get a contract. I thought I was going to get that phone call. I was like, hey, man, I want to run this Bill Jarvis. I want to run this old school 3-4. I need you at nose guard. I want you to be my next Fix Wilfork. I know you're 38 years old, man. I just need one solid year out of you. I'm trying to win Super Bowl this year. I'm giving you 1 year, $6 million. How does that sound? Sign me up. Like that seems like that's how every conversation went with everybody that signed with the Patriots. So for him to do that, that means, and it's funny that we just ended up talking about Tom Brady because Tom Brady was able to go to another team and win a Super Bowl his first year.
Yep.
I'm sure Bob Kraft made a phone call. Like, he had that look like,
you wanted to get rid of him, right?
What you gonna do? Like, so what you gonna do about this? So what you gonna do?
So what you gonna do, player? It was totally a combination of Tom Brady winning and New England stinking it up. Now, granted, they had a lot of guys check out because of COVID and all this stuff, and opted out of the season. I get that.
Indeed.
But
yes.
You can't say that I can win. And basically what he did was say, I can win with any QB. You can bring me anybody. I want Jimmy Garoppolo. I would rather have Jimmy Garoppolo than an aging Tom Brady. And you would do something like that, and then you bring in Cam Newton. Cam Newton didn't really have any time to learn the system. Then he got COVID. And like I said, it was a snowball down the hill, and you look bad out in these streets. And your guy that you let go is riding clean over there. Like, he got a brand new lady. She looking good. She got, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you hate.
He got the new whip. He got the new house. He's moved on. Yep. Like, he going out in these clubs. Like, he learned how to use, Instagram and TikTok. He hollering at chicks. He sliding in DMs and everything. Oh, he out here doing his thing.
Yeah, he on social media doing the dances. Corvette.
He calling up old flames like, hey, yeah, come on, Brooke, come on back, man. It's sweet down here. Come on down to the temple. Like, he basically he pulled LeBron in the NFL. That's exactly what Tom Brady did. He pulled a LeBron. He went and said, you know what? Because take you back to before the season, Bruce Arians had no interest, and he made it very clear. He was not interested in bringing in Antonio Brown. And you know what? Once everything got cleared and when everything got situated, Antonio Brown was on that doggone team. Yep. And guess what? Bruce Arians, he sacrificed his personal beliefs or however he felt about Antonio Brown because Bruce Arians had Antonio Brown when he was in Pittsburgh,
Right.
and when he was the offensive coordinator, and he was a fool with it when he played for the Steelers. Antonio Brown was a whole fool when he played for the Steelers. And Ryan Clark, he even said it himself. One of his former teammates said he knew that dude was going to be a problem, and he ended up being a problem.
Well, I will say and once again, Mike Tomlin signed a 4-year extension with Pittsburgh. They announced that today. But to Mike Tomlin's, you got to give that man a salute. From what we know about Antonio Brown, from what we know what was going on with Le'Veon Bell, from what we know was going on with Big Ben, to be able to keep that locker room together, to not kill each other, to not have an explosion, and basically to kind of keep the media, because it would be different if it was 1975 and it's only one reporter allowed in the locker room and all that. So you can kind of tell that guy, hey, keep some of this stuff under wraps. No, it's a wide open locker room, and he was able to hold this thing down with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you have to absolutely tip your hat to head coach Coach T, and say he deserves this contract extension.
No doubt, man. Because one of the organizations that have always done right by their coaches and showed patience, and they've been rewarded tremendously throughout their entire existence in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So kudos to both sides. I've always liked Mike Tomlin as a head coach, and he is a prime example of, a guy, an African-American head coach or African-American coach getting the opportunity and seizing it and being the headliner. Because we know Tony Dungy was the headliner for a little while, and he was the example of what an African American head coach looks like, and being successful and depicting that, and knowing that they could be just as good as anybody else. And Mike Tomlin has done that, so I definitely kudos to him.
And I pay attention to a lot of these guys who are trying to run him out of town. Pittsburgh loses 2 games. I think they need a new voice. Maybe it's time to get Mike Tomlin out of there. I don't think the guys are responding like they maybe he's lost control of the locker room. There's a lot of these guys on national radio, on national television that try to run this man out of Pittsburgh every chance they get. And so I'm glad that he signed this extension and he's able to kind of shut that down, because he's deserving of being a head coach, and he's deserving of being able to stay with the franchise that first got him up. So last question, man. I gotta I know you got some things you gotta take care of. The all-time draft debate. If you are a GM, no matter the team, no matter what it is, no matter what you have on your squad, who you have, what is the philosophy? Do you draft for need, or is it best player available?
Wow, that's a good question, because I've always been a guy that says that you only can play one player at a time, right? So, because, for example, if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and I have the number 3 overall pick, right, and Justin Fields is sitting there, I'm not going to draft. If Justin Fields is at the top of my board, I'm not drafting Justin Fields, because I have Patrick Mahomes, who's Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's about to make $50 million a year. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think that I think it's kind of a combination of the two, but people don't really admit that. It's the best player available that feels a need on my roster. So because I don't think you can solely draft one way with one instance and best player available, and you can solely draft strictly for need, because you can have at certain positions, you can have multiple guys that are really good. Like offensive line, you can do that. Defensive line, you can do that. In the secondary, you can do that. Those are the teams, those are the position groups that are actual multiple guys on the field at the same time.
Right.
So you can do the whole best player available with that particular group, but with quarterback, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't sit up here and have 3 first-round picks, or 3 first-round quarterbacks sitting on your roster. Like, yeah, we went best player available. No, I think it has to be a balance. The best player available that feels an immediate need, because that's essentially what the draft is about. You want to draft the best guy that feels a need on your roster or feels a hole on your roster. So I think it has to be a combination of both.
And I'm glad you said that. And the only reason why I asked is because a lot of times when a lot of people talk to GMs, or a lot of people, like even with us in that here in Atlanta, when we just hired Terry Fontenot, he got in, and a lot of people asked, well, that was one of the first questions: are you drafting for a need or best player available? And he kind of gave an answer. I think at some point in time he said like he likes best player available, but I think you have to have that balance to say it all depends. It's like down and distance, dog. It all depends on what we have, the
situation,
and what we're doing. And so you have to have that balance to say that. So yeah, I like the answer. And we're up against it, so I'm going to let you go. But before we do, once again, shout out the podcast, shout out the shows, shout out to Instagram, Twitter, all social media, and let everybody know to follow you, subscribe, like, all of the above.
All right, subscribe to our YouTube page at Fill in the Blanks. You can hit us up on Twitter at _Fill in the Blanks. We are on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. Please, 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 please go to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe button. We just dropped the episode with the one and only Steve Weiss from NFL Network. Had a really good conversation talking to him about the HBCUs and all that stuff. So please go and check us out. And you can hit me up at JarvisD90 on Twitter. I like to think of myself as an interesting follow. I don't pat my back on, for one good time, man. I don't do it often. So, I'm going to pat my back. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at JarvisD90 and my co-host, Tanisha Batiste at Tanisha Batiste. She's interesting as well. So yeah, I'm patting 2 people on the back, Gordo.
Hey man, we got to promote ourselves, dog. You know the game.
Indeed.
Again, I always appreciate you coming out, chopping it up with us here on the Commissioner's Conversation. We look forward to doing it again, possibly after the draft or sometime as we shoot even basketball, when we get into playoffs and all that stuff. So we'll definitely do it again, man. I appreciate it.
And you know me, and I always, man, appreciate you having me on. And I'm always down to talk some hoops now. I get down with that too, brother.
Yeah, because I don't want these people out here thinking you a one-trick pony, man. I can't have that.
Nah, man, I'm versatile, man. Like, shoot, when you want to talk some soccer, bro, I'll get down, man. Baseball, we can do it all, man. I'm ready. Sign me up.
Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna do it. We'll definitely do it again. But until next time, brother, I appreciate it. For Jarvis Davis, I'm Commissioner Gordon. We'll holler.